Hello everyone, it's Sarah, Painty Creator here. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Drop me a like and a subscribe if you're not subscribing, and let me know where you're joining from in the world, because that's really interesting. At the moment my energy levels are really low, and so just as I say to everybody, I'm painting smaller, because painting smaller requires less energy of me, and watercolours are brilliant because you can rest in between. So this is a 15 centimetre by 20 centimetre piece of paper. I've just measured it and cut it down from a normal A4 size of my Creative Peak paper. This is on offer at the moment from Amazon. I don't gain anything from recommending it, but it's a brilliant everyday watercolour piece of paper. Takes water well, and at the moment you can get 64 sheets for £16 at Amazon in the UK, which works out at like less than 20p a piece, or 23p or something a piece. And I've got 4 out of 1 sheet, so that means that I'm on like 5p-ish. Which means that if it all goes wrong, I can throw it in the bin and that's fine. It's coming up to my husband's birthday, and this used to be one of our favourite places to visit. It's Amersfoort in the Netherlands. So that's what I'm using today, which is my photograph of this space, as I want to paint him some of our favourite places as our memories, because we're not able to get out and about as much because of me at the moment. Those of you that live with people with chronic illness, or yourself like me are living with chronic illness, will know that feeling well. So I'm just going to pause the camera, do a little bit of a sketch, and then we'll be back with you. Okay, so I'm back. Here's my little sketch. I'll just put my photo on so you can see. It's an inspiration. Obviously I've cut it down a little bit, but I'm going to put this tree on. Oh, I might just pop those little lily pods in, but we're leaving it fairly loose. I'm just going to drop those lily pads into the water. It'll give a nice something, little flower. There we go. So nice lily pads. So my usual Cotman watercolour set, another great everyday student grade set, but they've got really good quality of pigment in them, which make them really nice to work with. And I just top mine up with tubes from Cotman. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of this, which is my Jackson's Quin Gold. It's a colour that's really vibrant, and I want it to catch that sunlight feel. And I've got this Van Gogh Dusk Yellow out, which is a really nice colour that granulates. And I'm also just going to dig out some of my Daniel Smiths. So I've also dug out some quinacridone burnt scarlet, which is a bit oranger than normal burnt sienna, a bit more vibrant, and some Moonglow, both really lovely. The Moonglow granulates beautifully as well. So let's see how this painting goes. So here they are, they're in my little porcelain palette. So I've got the Moonglow, the Dusk Yellow, Quinacridone Gold, and some Quinacridone Burnt Sienna. And I'm using my medium mop brushes, so I'm on my medium mop brush because I'm just going to lay down some of the feel of the space for me. I want to just get a feel of that atmosphere. So I'm just mixing up a really light version of my Quinacridone Scarlet and a little bit of Quinacridone Gold for the building. I'm going to work around those, so I'm working wet on dry around those windows that I've popped in, adding a little bit more Quinacridone Gold there for some warmer tones, particularly on the top. Just give that a spritz so that it blends in. I'm wanting this to be really nice and warm. It reflects well then into remember, we're not doing a photograph, we are doing a representation of the space. This is actually white, but it's in shadow, so I'm just going to do a little bit of Moonglow. Oh, actually, that bit's not, that's on the building. Don't you just love a little bit of brain fog? I'll just blend that in. Watercolours are quite forgiving. Just don't want that harsh line. So in which case I'm just going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue and a little bit of that Moonglow, plenty of water. And then I'm just going to do this white side of the building. Which is in shadow. Drop some of that shadow colour around some of our buildings. Nice. So then we've got a canal wall and then a canal water. I'm going to go just and drop again this building colour into the canal. A little bit of that blue in there. And I'm going to just pause and let that dry. So here I am, I'm back. That's dried really nicely. I finished it off with a hairdryer I'm loving this sort of looseness of colour and this nice colour change that accidentally we put together, but accidents happen and that's really nice. And I'm thinking these two go really well together, the quinacridone gold and the quinacridone burnt scarlet. You could use some Gamboge yellow and some burnt sienna and get a very similar result, but I do like the translucency and the vibrancy of this colour. So we're now going to go for this wall, and I'm cautious not to push it too heavy and too dark, but I do want it to be darker, so I'm going for some Moonglow and my quinacridone burnt scarlet for a different brick tone underneath, and then I'm just going to drop in a little bit of burnt umber to just brown the tone off. So the burnt umber is just off my usual Cotman set, and as you can see it's quite watery, it's quite translucent. I needed a bit more brown in there for the contrast. I'm just going to drop a little bit of ultramarine in for a bit more of a shadow contrast underneath. Because it's on the shadow side. And then I'm just going to paint in some shadows. Add a little bit more of that quinacridone burnt scarlet into the bridge. So now I need to do a little bit of a contrast, but it needs to be in harmony. Just add a little bit of quinacridone gold. See where we're going. Add a little bit of that burnt scarlet. And then drop in some reflections coming down here. And then I'm just going to add some more Moonglow in the top. Trap a little bit of light there. Okay, we've got the main colours down for there. I'm going to just pick up some burnt umber. You could use some neutral tint into that mix. I'm just going to put on a tree trunk, a little tree and a big tree. I'm just going to drop in a little bit of that Moonglow into the shadow sides. Tap, tap, tap into the places and they're quite strange with these trees because they do actually grow out of the pavement area, but if you didn't ground them with a little bit of a shadow around them, they would feel like they didn't belong. Okay, so I'm going to give that a dark under there. Moonglow and this green, that should make a really nice dark. A bit of ultramarine. And this Moonglow. And then I'm going to add some burnt sienna into that. So I'm trying to get a dark that will be in harmony with the painting. That's the water level. And there's like a little bush thing that sort of goes off. I'll leave that. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of Payne's grey into there, and I'm just going to darken. Okay, time to let that dry. Okay, I'm going to just put some of the detail on. I've swapped to my small mop brush. And the window detail could be a little bit fiddly, but it's an impression. It's not an exact replication. So this is just a Payne's grey and Moonglow. Doing these little blobby bits. You need plenty of water to make it move and to fill your brush, but you do need the saturation also for the darks of the window to stand out nicely. And I think I might go back and do some pen work with these windows later. We're potentially going to cover some up with the trees. I did realise that I'd forgotten to put the reflections into the water area just before I rested, so I popped them in. And I'm trying to do these windows similarly. These are less dark around this side, so a little bit more water. A different style. And I'm just going to add a little touch of ultramarine into there, because this bottom bit on these windows I've got a block of blue. It must be a blind or something. I'm just going to lift out the density of some of that, because it is quite a light blue. That's just with a damp brush. Okay, so I'm going to mix up some of this dusk yellow. It's a lovely granulating colour. It does lighten quite significantly, but it goes really, really well with other colours. So I've just added a little bit of sap green for a bit of vibrancy. And I'm going to just paint this tree that's across here. It's quite nice, it's all jaggedy, it's got lots of tones with it. Just added a little bit more of that dusk green. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of that in the water. I'm going to put the water on later. And I'm just going to add a little bit into this mix that we had for those windows, just for something different from this tray. Potentially you're not going to even see that tray. And then we've got a really nice big tray over on this left hand side is a weeping willow. I'll start with this dusk yellow. It's got absolutely beautiful sort of falling down branches. So the dusk yellow and that little bit of sap green will lighten considerably. I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine into there. Oh, that was a lot of ultramarine. Just add a bit more dusk yellow in, just to get a darker background. A bit more dusk yellow. And then the reflection in the water. So for these lily leaves to stand out, I'm going to mix some sap green just by itself and a touch of this dusk yellow. And they'll tone into the water. And although the flower on our photograph is white, I'm going to use quite a bright pink. I'm going to use an alizarin crimson. Just to draw the eye into that space. So whilst I've got my little brush, I'm going to go back and do that doorway. This dark that we've got mixed up. A little bit more Moonglow, I think, into this one. There we go. And then above that door there's some ornamentation. I'm just going to use the same brown that was on our palette from our trees, just to do some squiggly lines as if there's that ornate bit around the door and those steps. And I'm going for the same ornate feel around some of these. Quite a nice building. There we go, nice. So I just need to wait for this to dry. I'm just going to suck up that little bit of a blob that's come, and then we'll be putting the water on for the canal and we'll be nearly finished. Maybe a little bit of grey on the buildings to just bring out the windows. Let's see. So as I was just drying this, I forgot to put on this little bit of greenery that sticks out and helps to define this sort of separation. And this little bit of greenery here, might actually just go over that with a little bit more brightness. And just so it sits in contrast a little bit with those. So a little bit of turquoise and Moonglow for my water. Plenty of water because it's a glaze. I don't want it too blue, which is why I've chosen that turquoise base. I've just been careful around those lily pads because I want those to show. There we go, some nice reflections. Again, you can always darken things. It's much more difficult to come back from and make something lighter in watercolour. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that watercolour and my watercolour into this brownie mix, just to darken that a little bit. And I'm just going to put the edge on. I'm going to have to move my board for this, but I'm just going to run an edge down here and then down in the water, and then just a little bit of a glaze with that. Just brings that to life a little bit. Not overly bothered there. And then these are black posts, so I'm just using some lamp black but into this brown mix. It'll just take some of that definition off, because I don't want the eye to stop. And these sort of go around the corner. So these have got like cross patterns on them with a blob in the middle. Maybe I'll pop another one on there. Now I've drawn on that tree trunk, I can just lift it off with a bit of a damp brush while it's dry. It's still wet. You can normally rescue watercolour quite well. I'll just use a rigger brush for this. If you're bothered, you can space out your railings. And then whilst this black's on my brush, I'm just going to do some, it's like a black brown, just a little bit of detail. And again, I'm not worrying too much about how precise things are. It's an impression. I went over that tree trunk again. Just add a little bit more brown over the top if you need to. So, there we are, my little impression of Amersfoort. Such a lovely space. I've got so many happy memories of that, and I really hope that you've enjoyed me painting this, my little happy memory space, on this small piece of 15 centimetre, 20 centimetre by 15 centimetre paper. Have a lovely day. Please like and subscribe, and follow on, because we can still have creative fun.